Our story begins not with unity, but with its terrifying opposite, fracture. The year is 1787. The place is Philadelphia. A group of men have just completed the most audacious power grab in American history. They have thrown out the rule book. The Articles of Confederation, that weak and wobbly first government, was deemed a failure, and in its place, they crafted the Constitution, a document that proposed a single, powerful federal government with a president, a federal court, and the power to tax. When this new Constitution was sent to the states for approval, all hell broke loose. Imagine, if you will, a country without a unified news cycle, a country of pamphlets and town squares. And in every tavern, every church, every farmhouse, a terrifying question hung in the air: have we just traded the tyranny of a distant king for the tyranny of a distant Congress? This was the great mystery of 1787 and 1788. The characters in our drama split into two camps: the Federalists, who supported the Constitution, and the Anti-Federalists, who saw it as a monster. The Anti-Federalists were the conspiracy theorists of their day, and I mean that in the best possible way. They were the ones who looked at the elegant machine of the Constitution and said, "Where are the guarantees? Where are the fences? They say the government will only have the powers we give it. But what if they take more? What if they decide they have the power to tell us what to print? What if they decide they have the power to house soldiers in our homes? What if they create a national police force, a standing army, and use it to silence us?" The Federalists, led by the brilliant minds of Alexander Hamilton and James Madison, initially scoffed. Hamilton, in the Federalist Papers, asked a chilling question of his own: "Why," he wrote, "declare that things shall not be done which there is no power to do?" He argued that a Bill of Rights was not only unnecessary but dangerous. Why dangerous? Because, he reasoned, if you list the rights the government cannot touch, you imply that it has power over everything else. It was a clever, legalistic, and deeply unsettling argument. The ratification debates were a knife fight. In Virginia, New York, and Massachusetts, the vote was so close, the tension so thick, that the entire project teetered on the edge of collapse. The Constitution might have died, strangled by its own silence on the rights of man. And this is where the mystery deepens. This is where the promise is made. The Federalists, desperate to get the Constitution passed, made a secret, strategic pledge. They whispered to the doubters, to the firebrands like Patrick Henry and George Mason, "Vote for this Constitution now. Trust us. And the very first order of business for the new Congress will be to add amendments. We will build the fence. We will list the rights." It was a political deal struck in the smoky backrooms of power. Without that promise, there is no United States of America as we know it. The Constitution was ratified, but it was ratified on a promise. A promissory note to the American people. And now we move to the first act of our new government. The hero of our story, or perhaps the man haunted by a debt, is James Madison. He was a Federalist. He had argued against a Bill of Rights. He thought Hamilton was right. But he was also a man of his word, and he was a political genius who understood that if he didn't deliver on that promise, the Anti-Federalists would tear the new government apart. They might even call for a second constitutional convention, one that could unravel everything. So, James Madison, the father of the Constitution, had to become the father of the Bill of Rights. But how do you write a ghost? He sat in his boarding house room, surrounded by over 200 proposed amendments that had come from the state ratifying conventions. Piles of paper, each one a scream from the people: "Protect us. Protect us from ourselves." He had to distill this cacophony of fear into a clear, ringing bell of liberty. He did something brilliant. He decided not to insert his changes into the body of the Constitution, which would have rewritten the original text. Instead, he proposed they be added at the end, as a separate list. This was a masterstroke. It preserved the original structure while building the fence around it. He originally proposed 17 amendments. The House and Senate fought, merged, and cut them down to 12. And here is a twist in the tale that history often forgets. On September 25, 1789, the First Federal Congress of the United States approved these 12 amendments and sent them to the states for ratification. The first two were not about your personal freedoms. The very first one was about apportionment, a complicated formula for how many representatives we should have. The second one was about congressional pay. It was the third through the ninth amendments that contained the magic. What we now know as the First Amendment, religion, speech, press, assembly, petition, was originally the third one. The suspense was not over. The ratification process took over 2 years. States debated, argued, and voted. And then, on December 15, 1791, Virginia, the Old Dominion, the home of so much of this drama, became the 11th state to ratify. With that, the final piece clicked into place. But only 10 of the 12. The first 2 amendments, the ones about congressional math, were left behind in the dust of history. So, what was ratified? The mystery of our rights. Let's look at them not as lawyers, but as storytellers. The First Amendment, this is the most radical idea in human history. It's not just about being nice. It's the right to be offensive. It's the right to challenge the government. It's the right to print a pamphlet that calls the president a fool. It is the government promising to stay out of the business of truth and God. It creates a marketplace of ideas where the only currency is argument. It is the source of our national noise, and also our national strength. The Second Amendment, perhaps the most debated sentence in the English language. It was born directly from the anti-federalist fear of a standing army. They had just fought one. They didn't want a professional force controlled by the president that could be used to impose federal will. They wanted well-regulated militias, everyday citizens with their own muskets, to be the primary defense of the state. The amendment is a sentence with 2 halves, a dependent clause and an independent one. The mystery of its meaning is a debate we are still having today, a testament to the fact that these words are alive, not dead. The Third Amendment, this one seems quaint, even silly, to us. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house, without the consent of the owner. Why is this here? Because the Quartering Act, which forced American colonists to house and feed British soldiers, was one of the intolerable acts that sparked the Revolution. It's a reminder that the smallest intrusion into your private life, the ultimate violation of your castle, your home, is a foundational tyranny. It's a ghost of a grievance, but it protects a principle that is timeless. The Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects, against unreasonable searches and seizures. This is the amendment for the digital age. It was written in a world of physical papers and locked trunks. Today, our papers and effects are emails, texts, and location data. The core mystery remains: what is unreasonable? And who gets to decide? The battle between security and privacy, between the government's need to know and the citizens' right to be left alone, is the central conflict of our time, and it is fought on this ancient ground. The Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, and Eighth Amendments, these are the Due Process Amendments. They are the rules of the game when the government comes for you. No one can be tried for a major crime without a grand jury indictment. You cannot be tried twice for the same crime. You have the right to remain silent, that's the Fifth Amendment protecting you from being a witness against yourself. You cannot have your life, liberty, or property taken without due process of law. And if they do take your property for public use, they have to pay you for it. The Sixth gives you the right to a speedy and public trial, to a lawyer, to know your accuser. The Seventh preserves your right to a jury in civil cases. And the Eighth prohibits excessive bail and cruel and unusual punishments. These are the procedural safeguards. They are the tedious, boring, vital walls that prevent the machinery of justice from becoming a machine of oppression. They are there to protect the innocent, yes, but also to ensure the guilty are convicted fairly. If the process is broken, the verdict is meaningless. The Ninth and Tenth Amendments, these are the mysterious guardians, the silent partners. The Ninth says, the enumeration in the Constitution, of certain rights, shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. This was Madison's answer to Hamilton's old fear. He was saying, just because we listed some rights, doesn't mean those are the only rights you have. There are unenumerated rights, rights so fundamental we didn't even think to write them down. The right to marry, the right to raise your children, the right to travel, these are the ghosts in the constitutional machine, protected by this enigmatic clause. And the 10th Amendment is the final partition. It says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. It is a constant reminder that the federal government is one of limited, listed powers. Everything else, the vast, messy, glorious business of everyday life, belongs to the states and to the people. It is the amendment that keeps the federal monster at bay, or at least, it's the rope in the tug-of-war over power. So, there you have it. The Bill of Rights. It is not a dusty relic. It is a living, breathing, 233-year-old promise. It is a deal struck in the heat of political fire. It is a collection of 10 amendments, born from 12, that are less a list of rules and more a series of eternal questions. What is the line between security and liberty? When does speech become a danger? What is a well-regulated militia today? What is an unreasonable search in a world of smartphones? What are the other rights we keep forgetting we have? The mystery of the Bill of Rights is that it gives us the answers, but in a language that each generation must translate for itself. It is the foundation of the American experiment. It is the haunted house we all live in, filled with the ghosts of the arguments that built it and the spirit of the liberty that keeps it standing. It is our story. And it is far from over. Friends, if you are interested in the true history of the United States without embellishment, subscribe to the Empire of Freedom channel. Click on the bell so you don't miss anything.